Hey everybody, it's Brad, and today is May the 4th. So I've decided for this video to do a Star Wars themed design. May the 4th be with you. So specifically what we're going to be doing is digitizing a design from a backdrop. Um, and we've done a lot of that, but people have been asking me to do some more digitizing from a backdrop. So more specifically than that, what we're going to do is we're going to be digitizing from a backdrop that is a picture of something that's already embroidered, which is a helpful way to learn how to digitize, because you can see what type of stitch the person that did the original design did, and you can emulate that, and it's a good way to learn kind of by doing, and you can compare what your project looks like with what the finished product that whoever digitized the design got. So to do this, we're going to need to find a picture of an embroidery design, or you could actually, if you have a professionally made item of clothing or whatever, you could snap a picture with your phone and kind of get the same thing. But what we're going to do is find one on the internet. So I want you to go ahead and open a web browser, any web browser, and go to google.com. Go up in the upper right hand part of the screen here where it says images, and left click on images. And I am going to search for something Star Wars related. In this case, I'm going to search for R2-D2. And you could search for whatever you want, but what you do is you're going to type in the thing that you want, so R2-D2, and then you put the word embroidered. Okay, and that should get you a selection of images, at least some of them, that are already digitized designs that somebody has sewn out, right? So these are ones that you buy, like patches, or maybe you could buy the embroidery design on Etsy or whatever. But the important thing is you find one that you like and that you think looks good. Like I like this one. I think this one looks good. This is the one I'm going to go ahead and download and save. So you find one that you think looks good and that you want to emulate. And then you left click on it and you choose view image, and then you just right click, choose save image as. Now your particular web browser, the wording may be a little bit different, but it'll be something like that. You save the image. I've actually already saved this, so I don't need to save it again. But once you have your image, or for those of you who are in my class, the image of R2-D2 here is going to be on your CD for the class. But everybody else can find this image pretty much the same way. I'm just going to close this because I already have it. So back to my Floriani club. We're going to go to my Floriani today here, and we're going to choose create a new design. We'll left click on create a new design, and you get your design field comes up, and I am going to go to the backdrop tool, which is on the left hand part of your screen. It's this little like mountain picture of some mountains. If you hover over it, it says backdrop tool. I'll left click on that, and I want to find my little R2-D2. Here he is. Choose open. Okay, so you would have to go to wherever you save your design, or if you're in my class, you're going to go to the CD and get the picture of R2-D2. And here we go. Now, I have something of an ulterior motive for doing this because I have to make some shirts for our show that's coming up, our So Fair show anyway. And I always digitize my own designs for my shirts. So we'll be actually making my So Fair shirt that I'm going to wear for So Fair here. So I'm gonna digitize this with that in mind. So when I do my shirts, I always use a 5x7 embroidery hoop to do them. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring up a 5x7 embroidery hoop so that I can kind of see what kind of space I'm working with. So to do that, I'm gonna go up to view here and then go down and choose select hoop. So I select hoop. My format's PES, and the hoop 130 by 180. That is the 5x7 hoop. Okay, so you can go in and pick whichever hoop you're going to use. The 130 by 180, like I said, that is the 5x7, and I am going to have it rotated by 90 degrees. Choose OK. So this is the amount of space I have to work with. Right? So when I do a So Fair shirt, I always have words going across the top that say So Fair, and then the year, and then my name down here. So I got to make sure that I have enough room for all of that. And it looks like actually the default size for this image is pretty much going to be the right size for a So Fair shirt. But if I wanted to change the size, I can do that over here in my properties menu. I can increase it by typing in a number, or I can just kind of left click and drag to scale it up a little bit. So I'll just make it a little bit bigger. So let's kind of take a look at what we've got to work with here. All right, so we've got R2, and he's got a black running stitch outline going around the whole thing. We've got some large areas of white and gray that we can use a fill for. And then we can see, if we look close, if we zoom in, and to do that you can just use the wheel on your mouse. When you're on the select tool here, if you have the select tool selected and you scroll in with your mouse, you can actually zoom in and out. So this looks like a fill stitch to me. This is all a fill, this is a fill, just a standard fill, right? We've got kind of like this darker gray shape that swoops in here that the black comes down on. That all looks like a fill to me. Now this black here, this is a satin stitch. That's all a satin stitch. And then there's kind of like little bits where there's a satin stitch in white around some of these areas. Now this up here, this could be a fill or a satin stitch. We'll probably make that a fill. And then some of the detail, like around his little sensor that swoops around here, that is a running stitch detail around there, and then it's just a fill on the inside. And then one interesting thing about this particular design is if you look at the pattern of the fill on his feet here, he's actually got kind of like a little, it's not like a standard fill. It's got an effect to it, and there's a way that we can do that. So we'll get to that when we get that far. But first, I want to get the big areas of color done. So I want to do probably this part in white first, or maybe I don't. Maybe I want to do the gray first. Yeah, I'm going to do the gray first because it kind of looks like the white is on top of the gray here. So it looks like the person that digitized this, they did that, and this gray, we have to decide if we want to do this gray as one piece, which we could, or we could do it in two pieces. Let's do it in two pieces. So we're going to do the gray here, and we're going to do the gray on his dome. And then I want to do the little gray detail in here so that when we do the white, we end up with the white on top of the gray. That could go either way. You know, we could have the gray on top or the white on top. It's kind of a 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's how you want it to be. And it really doesn't matter because there's going to be a border around it right here anyway. I'm going to do it just so that I'm going to do all the gray first so that we don't have to have unnecessary needle changes. Alright, so I am going to just start digitizing. This is going to be kind of a by the seat of your pants digitize. If you haven't noticed already, I don't really have a plan set in stone. This is going to be like a Let's Digitize style design. So you're just going to be riding along with me as I think about how to do this. So I'm going to start with this section here, and the first thing I'm going to do is go up and grab my line tool. So up here, this tool here is the line, the Bezier, or the pen and the Bezier, and I pretty much always use the line. I'm going to start right here and just go ahead and start creating this shape. Now, I'm going to ignore the fact that this blue is in the way here. And I'm just going to go down, and you can see that this is actually a darker gray right here, so we're going to cut that off there and follow up along here and then get to the end. And once you have your shape drawn, you're going to right click. So I'm going to choose right click here, and then I'm going to go and bring like a light gray color in. And when I do that, it changes the color of my line, but right now there's no stitches, so we still have to tell it to make the stitches. We're going to go in and hit the standard fill button, just like that. Okay, now, why is this blue? It's blue instead of silver. Well, that's because by default, your Floriani software will highlight whatever you currently have selected in blue. So if I click off of this, we can see that it's gray. And if you want to turn that off, which I actually do because I think it's really annoying, you go up to View. How do you do it? No, you go to Tools, and then Preferences. From here, you go to View, and then uncheck this box that says Highlight Selection and hit OK. And then it won't do that anymore. It just puts like a selection box around your work. Okay. If you like the blue highlights, by all means leave them on. I hate them. I think they're really annoying. So I'm going to leave mine turned off. Anyway, so I'm going to do the next section. I'll do, let's see, I want it to sew out this first, and then I'll go to here, and then I'll go to up here. I guess it doesn't really matter that much. So I'm just going to kind of do all the light gray sections first. Now I could have done this and the first piece that I did as one piece, but I'm not going to do that. It doesn't look to me like that's what the original digitizers did. We'll go ahead and apply that. Now one thing that actually strikes me a little bit is, let's take a look at, I'm going to move this. Let's take a look at the underlying stitches here that the other digitizers did. It looks to me like these stitches are going at a different angle than my stitches are. It looks like they're going this way, and if we look close at my stitches, I'm just going to undo that. They're going completely flat horizontally. And if you want to change the stitch direction, what you do is you go up to the shape tool, which is this third one down, hit the little node underneath of it, and a flyout menu will come up. One of the options is add inclination. If you click on that, you can actually change the direction. This black line is your stitch direction. So we change that direction, and we hit the select tool to generate it, and now our stitches are slanted at an angle on this part of the design. So if you ever want to change your stitch direction, to more closely mirror what you see in your original design, that's how you do that. Okay, so now I want to do the silver on the inside of here, and I'm going to go and draw that in. And I'm just left clicking when I do this, by the way. Just left, 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 left. And then right click to generate, and then go down here and choose my standard fill. And there it is. I'm going to leave the stitch direction alone just for the sake of time, really. And now I'm going to do his dome. I'm going to do his dome, and I'm going to, again, ignore the blue that's on top of it. And you'll see why I want to do that when we get a little farther in. So I'm just going to go along here. Now, if you want to make a more perfect curve, you can actually hold down your control key and then click along points along the line, and it'll automatically curve it for you. So if you see, I've actually got kind of a curve going here, and I was holding down the control key on my keyboard. Now I let off and do my last line here, right click, and I'm going to go ahead and generate these stitches with the standard fill button. The standard fill button is just the solid purple. Okay, and I'm going to leave the stitch direction alone again. And if I want to kind of check what things are looking like, I can always go over here and turn on the 3D button, right? So you can kind of see what you've done so far, a little easier when it's in 3D. Now, where else do we have this really light gray? Well, it looks to me like there's kind of like a light gray going on along here that's kind of, it's surrounding this darker gray portion. And you could do that. We could add this strip in a number of ways, and just for like variety's sake, I'm going to do it in a different way. I'm going to do it in a different way than what we've done so far. I'm going to do this as a satin stitch, and it's going to kind of make it look a little bit different than the fill-in spots. It's hard to tell from the photo when we zoom in. It's hard to tell how the original artist did this, so I am gonna just do it the way that I feel like doing it. So I go back to my line, and for doing a satin stitch, you're not you're kind of tracing. You're tracing it in the same way basically, but for a satin stitch, it'll only work on small areas, like narrow areas, I should say, not small. So I'm tracing this, and what it's going to end up doing is, instead of filling the whole area in with stitches, which is essentially like a fill stitch is like a series of running stitches, all lined up in a row, like run, 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 run. Just like stitch, 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 stitch. A satin stitch goes from one end to the other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so each one side to the other is one stitch, right? So that's why you can't make them too wide, because you can't have a stitch that's really, really, really long, because it'll catch on things. The machine won't even actually sew it out. So the difference between how we create a fill stitch and a satin stitch, when you go over here we've got our area that we just drawn in. We go to satin in the line of the different types of stitches. The very first one is one we're going to use. It's just this little curve here. Left click on that, and what comes up is it automatically goes to show us our points that were used to create the line. And if you look at the mouse, it's got a little dot on it. That's the inclination line. So a satin stitch has a bunch of inclinations instead of just one, and it changes the direction of the stitching as it goes. So you see how I'm going in and putting these inclinations in. I put them in, and that's the direction the stitch is going to go there, and then it's going to slowly curve until at this point it's going to go on this angle. Here it's going to be pretty much completely vertical, and then here it starts to curve back down, and then by the time it gets to here it needs to be totally horizontal. So that's the instructions that I've given it. Let's see what it does. We go over to the select tool, and boom, now we've got these stitches going in around this way. Let's put it in 3D. See that? See the difference in how that looks? So anyway, what's going to happen is we're going to eventually put a running stitch around this whole thing, and it's going to kind of bound it in, but it'll make it look pretty cool, I think. So that's that, and we're going to use that stitch a bunch more in this design, I imagine. For instance, around these little hoses that are going into his foot, those are going to be satin stitches. Probably this bit of gray here is going to be a satin stitch. But let's continue on here. Where else do we have this light gray coloration that we can do? Well, we've got light gray here. We've got light gray here, but that we got to do the white first. The white has to go down first, and then the gray on top of that. So we can't do that yet. This side of his foot is like a light gray. So we'll do that, and then right here too. So let's start with this part of his foot. We're gonna go in, get our line tool, and we're gonna trace this shape here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right click to generate, and then we're going to go and use a standard fill again. But what did I say earlier? These sides of his feet look like they have some kind of pattern to them. So the pattern that's in there looks kind of like bricks or something like that. It doesn't look like a straight fill, and we can choose a different pattern just off of a standard fill by going up here to the properties menu and pattern. We have all these different patterns to choose from: brick wall, pattern 1, pattern 2, pattern 3. I was messing with this earlier. I chose pattern 2, but you can go and pick these different ones and see what they look like. For this, I'm going to choose pattern 2, hit apply, and then I'm going to change the stitch direction, because if we put this in 3D, we can see that the roughness of the shape is going sideways to the way that it is on the original. So I'm going to go in, use my shape tool up here, click on the little thing, choose add inclinations, and we're going to change this so that the stitches are going like this. And then use your select tool to generate, and now we've got that side completed. I'm going to do the same thing over here. So grab my my line tool, left click, left click, left click, left click, left click. Okay, and if at any point you notice that, oh, you know what, I didn't quite get that point in the right spot, yeah, you can delete this and start over, but you could also just go up to your shape tool, make sure it's on edit path, and then you can move your points a little bit to make it perfect. You know, if you didn't get it dead perfect the first time, and then whenever you hit your select tool, it generates the new shape. So we go in, now we've got this, we're going to use the fill, standard fill, change our pattern to pattern 2. We're going to go back to the shape tool, bring out the flyout menu, add inclinations, and change our stitch direction. See? Lovely. Now we've got that light gray in there. We've also got the light gray that's kind of coming around like this. And I'm going to do that as a fill. Could go either way. Could do that as a satin stitch, I guess, if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do that as a fill. So I'm going to go in, and we're going to get the, you know what? I might want to do that after the black. Do I? No, I don't. I'm just going to go ahead and do this gray in here. Right click to generate, choose standard fill, and maybe maybe I want to change the stitch direction on this one too. That's such a small area, nobody's really even going to be able to see it. But there we go. That looks more like it did in the picture. We've got like this part of the foot here. This is like a light gray to me. So I'm going to trace that and put it in. Arguably this side could be a different shade. I'm not sure. I'm going with my gut and making that all a fill. Okay. I don't see any more light gray that I can do right now. Okay, so we're done with the light gray. The next color that I want to do is the white, and the white, the large white areas, like this area here is one big white area, and then his leg and the fronts of his feet are the ones that we're going to do next before we start doing any detail work. Alright, so I'm going to trace in his white on the front of his body here. And again, just ignore the stuff that's there. And if you mess up, you can just backspace. I don't need it to be that high up, because this black is going to be there. Okay, choose your color, white. Apply a standard fill, and change your stitch direction to the direction you want it to be. There we go. Okay, and now we're going to do this side over here. And I'm going to do this all as one piece. Oh, you know what though? Look at this. This is kind of like they've got a fill up here, and then this could be a satin stitch going around. Kind of like how I did a satin stitch here, and then the other way there's a satin stitch coming down around here. Yeah, we'll do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to trace this shape here, apply our fill. We're going to do this shape here as a satin stitch. So we're going to trace all the way to about here. Something like that. We're going to choose satin instead of standard fill, and we're going to put our inclinations in. And doing inclinations takes practice, but basically you put one in the corners at the angle the corner is at, kind of, you know, like right in. When you've got like a 90-degree turn like this, you kind of have to have an inclination going like this, and then when you get to the middle, you got it going straight up and down, and then straight horizontal when it's going this way. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. We're going to generate this. Yeah, that looks cool. Kind of complements the other one of those that we did. And then the blue is going to go inside of that. And then we're going to cover the ends of this with another fill. This up here we're going to do as a fill. Up and around. At one point I may just kind of shut up and commence to digitizing. I might not. It's hard for me to shut up, so I probably won't. Alright, so there we go. We've got this shape drawn in. Apply our fill to it. I don't know whether I'm going to like that in the end or not. We'll see. Okay, so we've got that. What else did we have that was white? Oh, the faces of the feet here. So we're going to go in and draw those. So this is going to be the same deal as the other side of the foot, where we're going to have to change the pattern. Okay, and then we're going to apply our standard fill. We're going to change the pattern to pattern 2 and hit apply. Remember, you have to hit apply anytime you change anything in the properties menu. That's unnecessary. And then we go over here and we're going to change the inclination. Hit our select tool, and now we have our stitches where they need to be. We're going to do the same thing with this side. I'm just going to ignore the little tubes for right now. We'll get to those when we're in the detail stage. Okay. Right. You can also right click to generate, by the way. You can either hit the select tool or right click to generate. Either one works. And we do the same thing. Standard fill, pattern to pattern 2, hit apply, go up to our shape tool, make sure that it's on add inclination, and make the inclination going the direction we want the stitches to go. Lovely. Okay, so that's, I think, all the white that we can do right now. So let's turn off 3D and just take a look. Okay, so we can see there's actually a couple of areas of white that we could do right now. We can do this satin stitch here and this satin stitch here. And there's even one here at the top. So we've got 3 more sections that we can do. And I'm going to do them with satin stitches, like I said. So I'm going to go in, use my line tool, and let's see, first I'll trace what's going to end up being this satin stitch. And this is what satin stitches are really good for, are areas that are fatter than a single line, but really narrow, compared to like a big open area like this. That is what satin stitches are the best for. We'll put our inclinations in and hit the select tool. Okay, good. We'll put that in 3D, take a look at it. Yeah, that looks good. It closes that gap, and it's in there. So now we've got this area to do next. And I am going to clue you into a secret. Oh, you know what though? Look, this dark gray. This dark gray has to go down first before we do this white. Because the white is on top of the dark gray. If you look at it, you can see that this stitch is biting into this stitch. So we're going to leave that one alone. But anyway, there's a secret that I'm going to let you in on here. And that is that when you're tracing, or when you're digitizing rather, a satin stitch, there is a cheaters mode. Okay, it's important that you're able to do this without the cheaters mode, but here I'm just going to trace this little L-shaped bit of white here, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. Up and over, and right click to generate. Okay, so I've got this area here. If you hit this button down here, this one all the way on the end, instead of the first one in this section, the last one, auto satin, it will automatically put your inclinations in and digitize it for you. But it doesn't always work. Sometimes it comes up and looks terrible. So it's important to know how to do it yourself. But a lot of the time you can get away with having the software do it for you. Okay, so I'm going to start using that in the interest of time. In a little bit here. So now we've got all the white. The next thing we're going to do, except for this spot here, the next thing we're going to do is the really dark gray colors. I'm going to turn off my 3D here so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. So I'm going to put the areas that have dark gray we're going to do next. So back to my line. I'm going to choose a darker gray color. So I'll choose this pewter and go in and draw these darker areas in. Okay, hit it with the standard fill, and let's see, we've got this part back here is like a dark gray. And hit standard fill, and this part in here is a dark gray. Kind of overlaps over the lighter gray there. And we're going to apply a fill to that. We've got this area in here is a dark gray. and apply a fill to that. And we've got this area here. And apply a fill to that. Okay, and now we've got this area inside, like an inset on the leg. Okay, right click, standard fill. Okay, and now let's put it in 3D, see if there's anywhere else we're missing. It's obvious. That all looks okay to me. So where else is there dark gray? Well, we've got these tubes here. Those are dark gray, and the more you zoom in when you're using the non-3D view, when it's in 3D view you can't see through the stitches, but if you turn off the 3D view, the farther you zoom in, the more you're able to see through the stitches. So we can see, without hiding this, we can see these stitches, or not, well, we can see where these tubes end. Alright, so I can digitize them a little easier. So I'm going to trace the outside edge of this gray color here, and remember, we're going to put an outline around this later, just like that. We're going to take this and I'm going to use the auto satin. Okay, put it in 3D so we can make sure it looks okay. Looks fine to me. Good. We can do the next one. Auto satin down here. Double check it. Looks good. What we're looking for when we check it is any like stitches that are just bizarrely out of place, which every now and again when you use that auto satin you're going to get stitches that are bizarrely out of place. So don't just trust it. You know, you want to pay attention to what you're doing. Alright, so we can't really see what's going on here and here. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually hide the stitches. And the way you do that is you look in your sequence view and you find the color that's blocking you. In this case, it's this first color that we did. We did it in silver, like a light gray I was looking for. But if you look in the sequence view, if you click on the eyeball next to the top part of the color, click on the eyeball, it hides that color. We can see that we've actually got a couple of dark gray sections to do in here. So I'm going to go and draw this line in here. I'm going to do this as a satin stitch again. Okay, auto satin, double check, still good. And we're going to do this little curly Q up here, and hopefully I don't forget to go back and do this little white bit in here, but even if we don't, it's not, you know, the end of the world. Okay, again, auto satin, and we'll take a look at it. See here, it's not perfect. See right here where this stitch kind of comes in a weird angle, and then like the direction changes too quickly right there. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go in and manually do that, but that's not bad enough that I'm really worried about it. But you know, if I had done that manually, it probably would look better. Okay, so now we've got the same thing on this side. Make it an auto satin, and this little curly Q, and make that an auto satin as well. Okay. Now I'm going to zoom back out. Now I got to remember to turn my silver back on so that I don't think there's like an area that I missed. But you can go in and actually, if you collapse these, see how there's a plus sign here? If you hit the plus sign and the minus sign, it'll collapse or expand the section that you're looking at. So if you collapse all of these sections, you can just go color by color and say, okay, hide all of the white. Then you can see all the white is gone, right? So we can see there's actually some light gray that needs to be in here eventually. So we're going to make use of those. And down here, we can see that there's some light gray that needs to go in there. So we can hide each section so that we can work on each section. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at what we should do next. I'm going to turn off the silver and we're going to look up here at the head. We've got a little bit of white here, a little bit of white here, a little bit here, and we've actually got some dark gray up here too, as well as all this blue. So before we get into any of the detail work, like the running stitches that are going to make up some of the detail on his body, we want to get in all the areas of fill that we can. And what I'm going to do first is the blue. All right. So we're going to go in and we're going to draw these blue shapes in, and there's also blue shapes under the white. Okay, well, they're going to be on top of the white, but we're gonna hide the white and the gray for right now, and we're gonna trace in all of these blue areas. So I'm gonna go in, get my line tool, and I'm gonna draw in each blue area. Now I'm going to do something a little bit different this time. Oh, I forgot to change my color. So I've got my first one selected. I'm going to go and choose a blue color. And I'm going to make a standard fill. And I'm going to make the stitch direction going vertically instead of horizontally. Okay, but watch what I can do with this blue. I can right click on it. With it selected, I can right click on it and choose remove overlapped stitches, and we'll leave the overlap distance at 0.5 millimeter. And what that does is it actually cuts a little tiny hole in his dome. We can't see it because it's hidden. Let me turn it on and move it. Look, it cut a little hole in his dome, okay, so that we don't have too many stitches on top of one another. So that's a thing that you can do. Use that remove overlap stitches tool option and make it so that you don't make things too dense for yourself. And that works whether or not the shape is hidden. So that's pretty convenient. I'm going to go in and do the next area here. And make it a fill. Set my stitch direction the way I want it. Right click it, remove overlap stitches. Okay. And we're going to do that for each one of these. Now this one, we could add our own hole in this, or we could use the remove overlap stitches on the next section that we put on it, which is what I'm going to do. So we make this one a fill, and then we choose remove overlap stitches by right clicking, remove overlap stitches. Okay. And now we're going to go and do the rest of these little blue areas here. Dun, 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 dun. Right click, remove overlap. Okay. And this one. Same thing. And next one. Feel totally free to skip ahead, by the way. You know, if you feel you've got the gist here, you don't have to sit here and watch me trace every single one of these. I mean, just skip ahead a few minutes to get to the next section. Remove overlap, okay. And moving right along here. Just removing the overlap for each one of these. And that works for all kinds of stitches. That works for lettering too, which is pretty helpful if you're trying to put lettering on top of a design. Remove overlap stitches. Alright, and now we've got these areas in here to do as well. So let's see, I'll start with maybe this part. And we'll do this circle here. Sometimes it's easy when you're doing a circle, sometimes it's easy to just go up and use your circle shape rather than draw it. So you don't always have to draw everything. You do have auto shapes, and they're there to help you. Now we've got this part here. This blue might be a little too dark, but I can always use whatever color I want later. I'm going to do this part as one section. Because we're going to put those white strips over it anyway. And these parts look like they're last. Last of the blues. Okay, so that's all the blue. Let's turn our other colors back on. That's the silver, that's the white, and zoom out and take a look here. Now that already pretty much looks like R2D2. So when we add the detail in, I think it's really gonna all come together. But you see how you take it one component at a time, and it's just a lot of drawing simple shapes, and then it all comes together. You just, it's easy to kind of think about it and be scared of a design with this much detail. But aside from the amount of time that it takes to do them, every design is basically the same thing. It's just a series of shapes. That's all. So you can really digitize anything when you understand the basic principles of how it works. So anyway, let me get off my my soapbox here and proceed with digitizing this design so that we don't end up with a 3-hour long video. Next is we've only got one instance of red, so we may as well get that out of the way. I'm going to go in and we're going to use the circle tool, draw it in, I'll rotate it a little bit. I forgot to make it red, so we'll make it red, and then we'll apply a fill to it, and you can right click, remove overlap stitches for that as well. Looking good. And okay, so that's the only red. Now we want to go in and get the other couple of white areas that we didn't do before. So that's this, and there's a white up here, and we're going to make this and these little dots white as well. So first things first, we're going to make this one, and I'm going to do this as one complete piece and just let that black overlap it right here. I'm just going to let that be an overlap. I'm not worried about it. And I forgot to make it white. Make it white. I'm going to do the auto satin here and see how that does in 3D. Looks pretty good. Now we've got this little blob up here. You know what? I'd rather make that a satin. I'm going to make that an auto satin. And then we've got, I'm going to do this as one solid block of white, and then we're going to use the black to break it up when we get to that. A lot of this, you see, is really like, you do what you think is right, for the design. I don't like that. I don't like that being a perfect circle. I'm going to delete that and trace this one manually. Okay. And now we've got a couple of dark gray areas to do that we couldn't do before. So we want to do this dark gray area here and this dark gray area here. and then we should be ready to move on to black. And then once we're done black, we're done. So we're going to go in and draw this segment in. I keep forgetting to set my color before I do this. It's not really, you know, a big deal, but it's best practice. Alright, so we've got that dark gray, make it a fill. Okay, and we want to make this a fill down here. I forgot to remove overlap artwork for that other one. Oh well. It's no big. I mean, you can have your artwork. You can have your I keep saying artwork stitches. You can have your stitches overlap. You know, it's not the end of the world if your stitches are overlapping, but it does save time, and it keeps your design from getting too bulletproof. Okay, where am I at here? I need to remove overlap stitches. Okay, and it is a good idea though to double check that it didn't mess anything up when you do that, because sometimes if it's too complicated a shape, it can mess stuff up. Oh darn it! You know what? I missed a gray. Right here, this was supposed to be light gray around this, so that's okay. When you let's see. Oh no, okay, that's fine. This is a light gray. We didn't go back over the light grays yet. So there's one spot of light gray that we need to add in, and that's this kind of wheel shape around going that's going around this blue spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a satin stitch, the round part, and I'm going to do it by combining two circles. So check this out. I'm going to draw one circle, kind of fit it in there. Okay, so there's my outside circle, and then I want another circle around the inside, like that. Okay, and then I select both of these at once. So I hold down my control key and I select the first one and then the second piece of artwork, and then I'm going to right click. Now I have a choice for combine. So I hit combine, and that has turned this into a circle that can be turned into a satin stitch. See how it's combined those two lines? Now I need to make this light gray, and then choose auto satin, draw 3D, sweet, and we just need the little kind of crosshair that's in there. So we're going to go and just draw like this, and I'm going to turn that into a running stitch, run, and then we need a little tiny dot of gray right on top of it. Sweet. Looks good to me. Alright, so now we've got the black. So this is going to be the fun part, is doing all of these outlines and all this detail work. So some of this we're going to do as a satin stitch, and some of this we're going to do as a running stitch. And even some of it we're going to do as a fill stitch, like these big areas in here of black, we're going to do those with a fill. And I'm going to start with the ones we're doing as a fill. So let's zoom in, and I want to get this big void here out of the way first. So I'm going to go in and draw this shape, and I want to make sure I keep so that I'm butted right up against the other stitches. So that there's not any gaps. Oh, forgot to make it black. So make it black and then apply the stitches to it. Make it 3D and check for gaps. Looks pretty good. So other big areas of black. I don't really see any really huge ones, but we've got a pretty big one up here, and I'm going to actually do this big area of black here as a fill stitch. We're going to let that overlap right there, and that's going to be fine. Okay. Now this black here is big and thick, and I want that to be a satin stitch. Okay, so it's going to look bold. So we're going to go up, and we're going to go from here to here to here to here to here to here, and I want this section of it to be one big fat bold satin stitch. Boom, just like that. Draw 3D. And then the rest of it I'm going to do as a running stitch. Okay. And if we look here, we can actually see there's some white that we missed in there. My bad. So, but we can change the sewing order. We'll fix it at the end. And the gray down here, I forgot to do the light gray on the fronts of his feet. Give me a break here, though. I'm doing it. Doing it as best I can. And then we've got these. Oh, you know what? These two big areas here. These are black circles here that are going to be a fill. And then actually these are the same, so we're going to copy and paste by right-clicking. And then we'll put the white running stitch around them later. Okay, any other really big fat areas that I want to do as a... Here we go, we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to do just this L shape as a satin stitch. Here, 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 here. Auto satin that. Draw 3D, take a look at it, looks pretty good. And you know what? I'm debating on doing kind of like the corner and the bottom and the back part here, maybe as a satin stitch also. Maybe do this whole thing on his feet as a satin stitch. Let's see how this does. I'm gonna do this whole shape like this. And then the inside one. See, what I'm doing is I'm going to do the same thing I did with those circles earlier. I'm going to combine these. Right click, combine, make that an auto satin. That looks nice. Alright, we're going to do the same thing over here. Let's see, since I already made that L shape down there, a satin stitch, we're just going to make this. Oh, you know what? I forgot to close that shape. But that's okay. You don't actually need to. Let's see. Yeah, it looks fine. Alright, and then we've just got from here up to here. And these guys are going to have their own running stitch going around them. So we're going to go from here to here to here. And have that meet up there. Yeah, that looks good. I mean, maybe we'll do most of his outlines this way. This actually is coming together pretty well. And it's not really that difficult. Let's turn off 3D so we can see what we're doing here. So we've already got from here to here, all right? And we're going to go in and let's see, I'll do this whole part of him. Kind of getting off the... Remember, you hit backspace if you mess up. Now here we're starting to get into the area where we might be making the shape a little too complex for the auto satin to keep up. We'll find out though. Alright, so I've got this whole shape just drawn. I'm going to hit the auto satin and let's see what it did. Ha! Pretty good. Cool. Alright, now we got to do this back piece back here. Here to here to here to here. Remember, this part's already done, so we don't need to do it over again. Nice. Okay. I'm just kind of looking at what else we have to do here. We've got a line down here that needs to be done. I'm going to do that like this. Down, over, down. Now, why am I not doing this whole thing as one go? Because you actually can't branch off with a satin stitch. It has to be one piece. So if this was going all the way down here, end to here, all at the same time, then that's what's called branching, and that's a no-no. Because the satin stitch can only be going one direction at once. It can't be going two directions at once. So we auto satin that. Okay, and we'll do this last bit here. That didn't seem to take. Oh, you know what? I know what I did. I didn't draw it as a box. I drew it as a line. There we go. Looking good. Alright, and we've got one going along the outside here. Again, we just auto satin that. And we've got to go along the outside edge of this guy too. And there's going to be one, actually all the way around this is going to be one. So we're going to do this the same way that we did the other ones that we combine. Anything that's kind of like an enclosed shape like this, that's how I'm going to do it. So then we draw one, we draw two, we select them both, we right click, we combine, we hit our auto satin. Cool. So his feet are pretty much done except for that little bit of detail that we forgot to put in before. Now we've got, there's like this black area that goes from here to here that we need to do. So let's zoom in on that. I'm thinking that should be a fill stitch. Turn off 3D. We go here to here to here to here. And I'm kind of tracing more where the stitches are. If you know what I mean. Then what the outline that the original is. See how my stitches don't quite reach all the way down right here? So I'm pulling this line up a little bit to compensate for that. I'm going to make that one a fill. And I'm going to change the stitch direction to be vertical. Yeah, that's the ticket. See, that kind of simulates a satin stitch. We need to have satin stitches going all down here. So we're going to just draw these in, and remember, you got to draw them as a box. Whoop, misclick. Always backspace when you misclick. Okay. Just going to trace these guys in. So I should have known I was going to end up with a hour-plus video when I chose this image as what to do, but you know, it's National Star Wars Day, and it's going to be a cool shirt, you know. I'll take a picture of it and put it as the cover for this video once I stitch this out, so that you know, if you see this video and it doesn't have the cover, what am I doing? This needs to go down farther. If you see this video and it doesn't have the cover yet, meaning like the thumbnail for the video, just come back in a little while. I will do that once I sew this out. I don't know if I'll be able to sew it out tomorrow or not, though. So it might be a couple days. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now we need the outline going all the way around his body. So I'm going to do that as a satin stitch. So this here, if we look, there's actually a spot that we missed. And I'm just going to incorporate that into the outline at this point. So I'm going to start my satin stitch for this part of his body down here. I'm going to bring it down around the other side. Artistic license, you know. Actually, you know what? We should go all the way down. Like that. Alright, auto satin. Lovely. Now the other side. Oops. We'll deal with this leg separately. I'm using the arrow keys to move around, by the way. So when the image moves and jumps like that, that's me hitting the arrow key on the keyboard. And auto satin. Turn on 3D and check it. Looks pretty good. They must have improved that auto satin tool, because when this first came out, it didn't work as good as this. Okay, let's see. We've got this line right here to do. Yeah, this is gonna look good. Okay. I'm gonna get started on his legs. First, I'm gonna do the rest of this top part here. Auto satin. Oh, I want to do this part too. And any of you who are, you know, like professional digitizers, or you know, you're just really, really good at it, you may be thinking to yourself, you know, your pathing is ridiculous, Brad. I know. I'm not worried about what's gonna go after what at this point. This is like kind of like just, you know, learning how to trace off of a backdrop. I am gonna start doing some videos on more, you know, like the technical aspects of digitizing, like having your start and your stop points be set right and everything. But I mean, this video, if I was doing that with this design, this video would be really, 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 really long instead of just extremely long. Travel back up this area that I just did. Auto satin. Check it in 3D. Looks alright. And I'm gonna do this part next. This is like a fine enough area that I actually have to pay attention to what I'm doing, so that's why I'm being so quiet now. It's hard for me to talk and think at the same time. Alright, and now I'm going to just keep going. I'm going to keep going all the way around this side until I can't go anymore, until I run into a branch, basically. This better look good anyway. With all this time I'm taking to do this. Tell you what. Almost back to the beginning. We made it. Alright, now this is going to be probably the trickiest one. If this auto satin is going to mess up, it's probably going to be here. Let's see what we get. Nope. Good job, Floriani. Total control. You did a good job on that. I like it. Okay, so now I'm going to do... There's actually another trick you can use, by the way. When you've got a completely closed shape like this one, instead of using the satin stitch tool, you can use the steel stitch tool. Now, you don't want to use the steel stitch tool on anything that's open-ended, because it doesn't let you customize the way the end looks. Like, the end is always going to look kind of square on a steel stitch, but if it's a closed shape, then you can do it. So what that is this stitch right here. It's the one right before the regular satin, and the default width is going to be way too wide. But if you go up here and change your width to like 1 millimeter, that looks just like we drew it with the satin tool. So anyway, you can use the steel stitch for closed shapes. For instance, these rectangles here, I could use the steel stitch for those. Alright, let me zoom out and see where I want to go next. Let's see, there's kind of a crossbar down here that I missed. I got to do that. Really, that should have been done first so that the other two sides would overlap it instead of it overlapping them a little bit. But you know, at this point, I just want to get it done. I'm deciding where I want to go next. We should do this black here and this black here. So I'm going to have this one come in like this. And I'm going to have this one come and cross it. Good. Alright, let's zoom out a little bit and see what else we're missing. Big picture stuff here. There's like a border around this part that we don't have yet. So I'm going to do that. That might end up overwhelming this gray here when we actually sew this out. We'll find out when I sew it out, huh? Okay, well, we're getting close. We've got a outline around this blue area here. That's got to be done. Same deal, we go in and trace the inside edge and the outside edge. We select them both over in the sequence view, right click and combine. Turn it into an auto satin, take a look at it in 3D to double check it. Looks okay to me. Same thing with this part. Run this little sensor on his face here. Then another one. Select them both, right click, combine, turn it into a satin, double check your work. Looks good. Okay. His little sensor, or his little projector type thing that he projects. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think that's this piece. I was going to do all this as a running stitch. I changed my mind. I think this looks really good. And then I'm going to do this piece. And then the inner ring. Taking some artistic license here. But it's my shirt, so I get to. You know, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of this. You know, I ought to have drawn this part in with a separate type of fill so I could change the stitch direction here. It's too late for me to want to go and do that now, but if I was doing this again, that's probably how I would do that. Oops, my mouse just went crazy and decided to zoom. Oh, it's doing it again. I gotta get a new mouse. Alright. Let's do the outer part of his dome. Using the arrow keys again to do this, by the way. And I can actually see where I misdrew parts of this, so I'm going by where the edges of my stitches are, not necessarily where the line is. Where the line is in the picture that I'm tracing. So I can actually, at this level of zoom, I can see where my mistakes were. I can kind of cover them up with the satin stitch. Okay. He's looking good. So we've got to do around the tubes here, and then this detail on his inside of his body. Alright, so let's get these inner details done here. I'm going to do satin stitch going this way. Auto satin, double check, looks great. One coming down this way. Auto satin, double check in 3D, looks great. Got another one that comes out here. Again, auto satin. Always double check your auto satins, no matter how good it does for the whole time you've been doing it. Always double check your satins. And once again, I'm going to combine my shape. Oh, what did I do? Did I draw the whole thing on one and not the other? I did. Oh, Brad, you are so silly. Alright, let's try that again. The inner part. Combine that. Auto satin. Check in 3D. Looking good. Okay, this next section I'm going to do with a steel stitch. Remember, you gotta set your width to around 1 if you're gonna do that. Cool. That looks cool. Zoom out some more. Put it in 3D. Yeah, that's R2-D2, alright. Alright, so there's just a couple of details that I kind of overlooked before. One is we need to have the white. Well, I didn't overlook this because we had to do this last. So we got to do this white here. One of them goes like this, and we're gonna have it go all the way around our black. Okay, turn it white, and this we're gonna choose a run stitch, and we're gonna change the type from single run to bean. That's a triple running stitch. Okay, that's what we want, is a 3-ply running stitch there. So we leave our bean repeats on 3, and then we do the same thing for the other one. Oh, I forgot the hoses. Darn it. Run, double run, apply, put it in 3D, take a look. Yeah, buddy. Alright, so I forgot to trace around these little hoses down here. So let me just show you, if you make a mistake like that, how you fix it. So I'm going to go in here. I want to draw his hoses in. Oh, come on. Sorry, my mouse is being obnoxious again. Alright, so we want to draw a running stitch around the outside of these hoses to give them an outline. Oops. That's what you get when you rush. But we want them to be black, and we want them to sew out with the rest of the black stuff. Okay, so we turn it black, and then we turn it into a run stitch, and we turn it into a bean. We may as well go and do our other one too, and we'll move them both at the same time. So go in, trace this guy. Run. Bean. Oops. Alright, and we're going to take this whole section here, and we're going to left click on it and drag. Now I'm holding it, I'm going to move it and drop it on top of another one of the black parts, and it moves it in line so that it now sews out along with all the other black parts. Okay, so that way it's not going to go ask me for white and then black again. Okay, so you know, I need to do the same thing with the little gray spots that I missed on his feet. I'm going to do that on my own. We're going to call this finished. So now that took a long time, but I don't think that anybody could say that it was particularly difficult. It's all just breaking each part of the design down into the shapes that it's made of. And anybody can do that. It's just time consuming, and so you know, you got to sit down and do it. But I think that most of you guys will be able to do this kind of thing. So hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's ridiculously long, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.